and welcome on the Modern Endpoint Management Summit. In this session, we will talk about PowerShell and Graph to manage Intune. First, please turn off your mic to don't disturb the session, and ask all questions in the chat, and we will try to answer at the end of the session. So first of all, a big thanks to all sponsors to make it possible to make the summit awesome. A bit about us before starting. My name is Damien Van Robaeys. I'm a modern workplace consultant at Metis. I'm also a Microsoft MVP since 5 years now. You can follow me on my blog, System Deploy, on Twitter or LinkedIn. And awesome, Nicklas.
Yep. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicklas Ahlberg. I work as a consultant at Cygate in Sweden, Malmö. This year, I was awarded as an MVP within the enterprise mobility area. I do run a IT technical blog over at niklasahlberg.se. Feel free to tweet at me and, of course, connect over at LinkedIn. So go ahead, Damien.
Thank you, Nicklas. So first, what is MS Graph? MS Graph is a REST API allowing you to access to all resources located in Azure. Main idea is that all resources in Azure are interconnected between each other, so you can access to a lot of data, like data from OneDrive, Teams, OneNote, SharePoint, Azure AD, Intune, ATP, etc. All those resources may be accessed through Graph and also through PowerShell. It's useful to automate all action that you can do on different portals like Intune or Azure, and also through Graph. All actions that you can do on portal, you can do with Graph. We can say that it's like the door to access to all resources from the portal. The MS Graph link is graph.microsoft.com. We will use it in all our query. What to do with Graph now? You can do a lot of things. First, with Intune, you can do, for instance, check or enroll device and get information relative to your device, run remote action like rebooting a device, wipe a device, locating a device, get BitLocker recovery for a device. We'll see with Nicklas, who did a really cool tool. Migrating your application from MSAL to Intune, you can check. Check on this link. We'll see this. We'll get the template some days later, and on a cool script built by Ben Whitmore to migrate application from MSAL to Intune. You can also create reporting solution for Intune device. Join me at 5 p.m. to see this. With Azure now, you can manage user group by creating, modifying user. You can access secret, meaning password, on Azure Key Vault. In my case, I use it to set to add a Lenovo BIOS password on the Key Vault, and I use Intune proactive remediation script to get the password and set BIOS password on device from the Key Vault. You can also do some action with Azure Automation, like scheduling purge of Azure AD group member, adding member to a group when autopilot completes. Both are available on my blog. You can also send Teams notification when autopilot completes, send Teams notification when a new Intune bug has been added on the admin center portal, or when secret or certificate will soon expire. This example will be soon available on my blog too. Graph API version and query structure. The Graph API is composed in two versions, the one version and the beta. One version contains features that are generally available, meaning for production use. And the beta version is used for managing resource in preview, meaning when Microsoft adds some new features on the Intune portal, there will be first available in the beta version, like proactive remediation script. Don't forget that beta API is subject to change. So your script may work one day with the beta version, but some weeks later, it may not work because Microsoft may have to do some change on method or something else. The Graph API is composed in three parts. The graph link we have seen before, graph.microsoft.com, the API version, 1 or beta, and the resource to manage. For a device, a resource will be device management, manage device. We will see what is the resource just later. The full structure will be MS Graph Link, graph.microsoft.com / API version 1 or beta / resource. There, device management / manage device. Now, if you want to manage a specific item like a device or user, you need to add the item ID at the end of the query. And next step is to use the appropriate method. Intune and resource. We have talked about resource, but what is a resource? It's a component in Intune. It's something that can be managed through the portal and, of course, through Graph. Most non-resources are device, user, group, application, proactive remediation script, PowerShell script, etc. Everything in Intune are resources. Resource query example for Intune device, resource will be device management, manage device. For Azure D device, it will be just device. For proactive remediation script, it will be device management / device L script. Now, how to get information about the specific resource? You can go to the awesome Microsoft reference there, and you will have access to how to understand resource. You can check the API version there, 1 or beta, and there you have all resources available. Let's go to user and get user. There I have all information about how to use this resource user. You have permission to add, to be able to list user or manage a user, and at the bottom you have the request, meaning how to use the query. For instance, for user, it will be graph.microsoft.com / API version / user with an S and / ID or user principal name to be able to manage a specific user. Now, each resource, as mentioned before, each resource requires a specific permission. For a device, you will need a specific permission, user or group a specific permission too. Method, we have talked about method, but what is a method? There are different methods available. The get method allows you to get information about a resource like a device, user, etc. List information about this resource. The post method allows you to create a new resource, like creating a new user, a new group. The patch method allows you to update a specific resource, like change the name of a user, of a group, of a device. And the delete method allows you to remove a resource, removing a device, removing a user, a group. The get and delete method don't require a body. The post and patch method requires a body. We will see this just later. And for delete and patch method, as we are managing a specific resource, you will need to add the ID of the resource at the end of the query. We talk about body, but what is a body? A body is something in a JSON format. There is a body for a device. It will list information about the specific device. There, device name, OS version, user principal name, model, etc. If you want to create a user, you will need to add a body for the user, meaning information of the user. For instance, the display name, the job title, and use the method post. Now, if you want to modify user, we'll use the patch method, and you will need a body too, but just field to update. There, I want to update the job title from farmer to king. So I just set the job title in my body. Graph Explorer. What is Graph Explorer? It's a web sim allowing you to explore graph and understand notion of query, resource, method, body, etc. To use it, first sign in with your account and choose the appropriate method, API version, and tip the resource to use. Let's see this in demo. So I will go to Graph Explorer. There is Graph Explorer. You have different parts. You have the combo box for method, combo box for API version, and their resource path. And there, this is the request body, meaning you have to pass the body in order to be able to create or update a resource. So we will use the API version beta, and we will list all device. Go to device management, managed device. Click on run query. Okay, there it will list all information, all enrolled device in my tenant. So now we want to display only some information like the device name. I will use filter there, select. Here we go. Okay, select, and there I will choose device name. Click on run query, and it will list all enrolled device just by its device name. Now let's do the same with proactive remediation script. Resource is device health script. Click on run query, and this will list all proactive remediation script in my tenant. Now, if you want to just display name, use filter select like this. Display name. Click on run query. So now it will list all my proactive remediation script by its display name. So it can be really useful to understand how to use Graph. In my case, I use it when I want to play with a resource and I want to test it before use it in production. So now how to find your query. When Microsoft adds some new feature, how to find the good resource to be able to use it in your script. For this, we will use just a browser endpoint and the developer mode of your browser. It works with both Google Chrome and Edge. So I will enable the developer mode by clicking on F12. I will first list all devices. Click on F12. This will open the developer mode. And there, I will click. First step is to clear the content there to have something clean. And now I will click on all device, and you will find all things that are executing in background. Now stop recording. And there, you have the resource to use called manage device we have seen before. Click there and you have the full path of the resource. graph.microsoft.com/beta/device management/device manage device. And you will see that method to use is the method guest. Now, I want to rename a device. I will clear the content, click on a specific device, and I will enable recording again and click on there and rename device. Now I will add a new name, click on rename, and you have all things that are executed in background. Stop recording, and you have an action called set device name. It's an action to rename a device. The resource will be graph.microsoft.com/beta/device management/manage device, the specific device ID to rename, and action set device name. And we will use the method post. As we are using the method post, as mentioned before, you have to use a body. You can see the body in the payload part there. You can see that the body is a JSON format, is just the device name with a new name to change. So now let's do the same with proactive remediation scripts. Go to the home. Stop there. Go to reports. endpoint analytic, and I will enable again developer mode, and I will go to endpoint analytic. I will go to proactive remediation script. Okay. And there you have a resource called device L script. To use, go to header, and you will see the resource path will be graph.microsoft.com/beta/device management/device script and method guest. This is really useful to understand a notion of resource and how to use it. I use it a lot when Microsoft had some new feature, or when I want to manage something through the portal and I want to do this with PowerShell. So now let's see how to use PowerShell with Intune to manage Intune resource with the awesome Nicklas Ahlberg. We'll start to.
Yes, thank you, Damien, for that great presentation. Yep, so I'm just gonna go ahead and steal your screen sharing. Okay, so all good. You can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So now we're going to have a look at how to use Microsoft Graph PowerShell to improve our productivity in Intune. So as IT admins, we do a lot of repetitive tasks on a daily basis. We are going to have a look at how we can utilize Graph and PowerShell to automate some of those tasks. And by doing so, we will try to work smarter and not harder. And what I like to do is kind of have this approach where I do stuff manually. I do some tests just to make sure it works as intended, automate it in a script, and then I will reuse it. So the first step here would be to set it up manually. This could be like a new user, a new policy, configuration policy from Intune. It could be like a BitLocker encryption policy, and so on. You know the drill. And then we will apply it once just to make sure that it works as intended. And then we will wrap it all up into a script so we can reuse it should we need it later on. And by doing so, I promise you, we will really, our productivity will shoot to the air. My name is Nicklas Ahlberg. I presented myself earlier, but feel free to connect with me over at social medias. So PowerShell and Graph. I want to highlight some issues that we could run into. The first one we will look at is the 401, which means unauthorized. So at some point, our access token wasn't good enough, right? We probably tried or forgot to get our hands on our access token. Then we did try to do stuff to Graph, and the access token wasn't good enough. And the next one is 403, forbidden. That means that we have successfully authorized, so we have our access token, but we lack permissions to do whatever activity we were trying to do. So access token, well, the first thing we need to do is install the module called MSAL.ps. Of course, there are other ways to do this, but this is the way that I like to do it. So install module in MSAL.ps, and then we will run the commandlet get MSAL token to get our hands on the access token we are going to use when we try to talk to Graph. And keep in mind, guys, we have the old ADL is being deprecated soon. So the last of June this year, we really need to start upgrading our scripts, our tools, and our apps to make sure we are using MSAL and not ADL. And what would that look like in PowerShell? Well, in PowerShell, we just need to install the module, as I mentioned, and then we will create this hash table with a tenant ID and a client ID. And this is what it usually looks like. But what I like to do, I like to scramble that around a bit and make it a bit more readable. So this is how we could do it as well. And we will look deeper on that going forward in this presentation. But enough with the PowerShell, the PowerPoint. Let's head over to see this in real life. So here we have me registering the app that we are going to need when we talk from PowerShell to Graph. And we'll keep default settings. We will make this a mobile desktop app, client native app, and we'll add the URL, redirect URL that will be used for our app to authenticate. Okay, and as mentioned, we need to copy the client app over to our script. So let's do that. And we'll paste it in our script here over at client ID. And as you can see, we will also need the tenant ID to make sure we run it in this correct place. And this will be an app running with delegated permissions. As you can see, we do not have a secret in this app, so it will use the credentials and permissions from the actual user running this app or script. Okay, so here we have it. We have our hash table with a client ID and tenant ID. Let's go ahead and get our access token. We'll need to log on. We'll need to consent to this because we didn't do this as an admin when we created the app, so we'll do it now. And as you can see, the MSAL token variable will have a lot of good stuff. So let's run that to check. There it is. Here is our access token that we will attach to our HTTP request when talking to Graph. And now I will switch over to some live demo. So let's hope we have the demo guts on our side, and here we go. So what we are going to do, I talked about doing it manually at least once, right? Just to make sure that it works as intended. So over at the configuration profile, we'll create a new policy from the settings catalog. And this one will be just an easy one. We'll allow camera. We'll allow the camera to be used on the devices. We will need to click add setting. Let's scroll down to camera. And yep, mark this one. As you can see, we can make it not allowed or allowed. We want to allow it this time, and we will click next, 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 and here we want to pause. And as Damien showed us before, we can press F12 and head over to the network tab. And now we want to create this to make it possible for us to get all this good stuff over here. And now let's see how we would do this from the Graph Explorer. So I'll copy the URL here, paste it here. And as you can see, this is a beta endpoint, so we don't need to change it. It's a post, as we can see here. So the method is going to be post because we are going to do a change or add stuff to our Intune portal using Graph. And over at the payload, we can copy the payload. It will not be very readable, but as you can see here, when we run this, it will look a bit better at least. So created from GE as in Graph Explorer. Let's run this one. Okay, here we go. And let's see what it looks like over at our, yeah, so here it is. So here is one created from the portal and one created from Graph Explorer. But we are talking about PowerShell, right? So what we could do is just copy this URL, head over to our script that we are working on. And here you can see we have already put the client ID we are going to use and the tenant ID. So let's change the URL here. And also we are going to need to copy the body. So what I do, just Control-A, Control-C, copy that to clipboard and paste it. And as you can see here, we have a variable, and whatever we put between those markings is actually going to be our body. Okay, and created from PowerShell. So just to make it a bit more clear when we look in the portal, let's run that one. I am probably gonna need to sign on at some point. Yep, here we go. I'm going to go get my password. Come on. Okay, there we go. Now I got it. So let's make sure that it works out. Do we have our access token? Yes, we do. This is the access token we will add here when we try to do whatever we are going to do by using Graph. So let's run those lines. As you can see, the body is all here. It's the same as from our Graph Explorer. Let's run that one. And now we should have another policy in our Intune portal. And as you can see, we did it manually. We did it from Graph Explorer just kind of to get the sense of the difference by using Graph Explorer and PowerShell. But this is how I like to do it. And from this point, I would just probably deploy this one, make sure it works. And for the next future, oh, okay, I misspelled, but whatever. In the future, I would for sure use the script instead of going through all the settings and so on by doing it manually. By using the script, it's way more fast. So now we're going to look at what it could, let's see, over baseline. Okay, so here is a lot more stuff going on. So let's head over to our portal again, just to see that, or to show you guys that this tenant right here doesn't have much at all. We just have the policies that we just created here. We do, however, have those two, but let's run our script and to see if we can add a lot more stuff in a matter of seconds. Okay, we have our token. Now let's just run this. As you can see, stuff is happening in our terminal. Okay, it's done. Now let's see what we have. We have a new compliance policy. Those could be tricky to set up manually. Over at the configuration profile, we have a lot of new. We have some Wi-Fi, power settings, device restriction, and so on. We have added another. We had two before, but we have added another Windows update policy, and of course we did also add for Defender, BitLocker, firewall, and so on. So this would be a really time-consuming task to do manually, and so this could be used. So let's say we have a production environment and we have a demo or lab environment. This could be used to move stuff between those two tenants. Okay, so good stuff. Let's have a look-see in PowerPoint. So here I just want to point out, guys, it's the same. The body will be the same by using Graph Explorer and PowerShell. So the transitioning from the Graph Explorer to PowerShell is really easy, and the end result will be the same. So please do keep that in mind. So we had a look at repetitive tasks. It could be creating new users, assigning user permissions, changing passwords, adding or changing policies, getting our hands on some reports, and so on. We could use Graph for a lot of stuff. And by doing so, we will work smarter, not harder, right? And the most important thing here, at least in my mind, is that we try to be as creative as possible and probably slightly crazy from time to time when we try to do this. And you guys who know me, you have seen some of my tools, and they have one thing in common. They all are using PowerShell and Graph. And I sure did have had a lot of fun doing it. And by that, guys, thank you so much to everyone for attending this session with me and Damien. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to our sponsors. Feel free to check those out. There's some really good stuff in here. And Damien, it's been a pleasure. And now I will hand over the stage to Metsis, who is the sponsor of this event. So again, guys, thank you, and I hope that you will have a good day here, sharing this day with us in this summit. Okay,
Thank
so
you,
I will.
Nicklas. You rock it.
So Metsis, feel free to go ahead.
So Thierry, or
yes, I can do that.
Oh,
I
Metsis. Oh yeah, Thierry.
just do you want to talk again, Damien, or not?
What's good for me?
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not Jean-Yves Trabach. Jean-Yves called in sick this morning. He has a very little voice, like a frog voice, you know. So we suspect a starting COVID or something like this. So I'll be the voice of Metsis this morning. I just want to share some just 2 slides with you. Just give me enough time to do that. Do you see my screen? Do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm gonna be quick. The point is not to be too tacky on that matter. Metsis is a Microsoft integrator. We are fully dedicated to Microsoft agenda. We are growing and growing and growing like weed, which means that we work pretty fine and we have a very good level of knowledge, and all our growth is based on delivery excellence. So thank you to everyone at Metsis. If you're here, thank you, Damien, because you're just part of the growth. We our presence, we have a footprint in 10 cities in France. We're just French. And we have more than 350 consultants and experts dedicated to Microsoft agenda. And we have also a very good specialty on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity for us is paramount to infrastructure. You cannot do anything today in infrastructure without getting cybersecurity in mind. We are very good at cybersecurity by design, which is our baseline. And if you come back to baseline, if we come back to baseline, we consider ourselves as builders, of course, because we're dedicated to the infrastructure guys, but we also build trust and digital trust, and that's why we're here, and that's why we are on the market, to make sure that our customers are very confident when they use Microsoft product. We use the right design so they can trust their infrastructure every day. We have one regional director for MVPs and a lot of people certified. Almost 90%, a little more than 90% of our consultants are certified. So it gives you a little idea of our commitment to the Microsoft agenda. We have all kinds of certification, and of course, modern workplace is one of them. Just see what we've achieved: 16 gold and silver, which is pretty great. And actually, we have the best competency footprint in France. So we are very proud to be the sponsor today, very proud to be here. And I'm handing over to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you, Thierry. I think it could be the question answer part, but we answer to all questions in live. it seems.
Yep. So we had some questions in the Q&A area. Those have been answered. So do we have anything else? Any questions? Feel free to raise those now, and if not, or if you run into or come up with a question later on, feel free to add those questions to our beloved LinkedIn group, and we'll do our best to answer those. So let's give it just a minute, and then we will prepare for next session here.
Nice t-shirt, by the way.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we haven't had any new questions. So thanks again, guys, for attending this session with us. Have a good rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Have a good one. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, guys. Well done. Thank you.